Russia, 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 Russia. And for nearly 6 months, the left and the mainstream media have been repeating the same refrain over and over like a broken record, that Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump not because of any fault of her own, but that Russia meddled with the US election. Somehow. At this point, though, the entire narrative is crumbling, with the eyes of the world watching. According to one of their own polls released by CNN, 58% of Americans don't think that Russia actually changed the results of the US election in 2016. Now, for months, we were told the DNC and John Podesta were hacked by Russia, and internal emails were released that were damaging to the Clinton campaign. So this was done through WikiLeaks. At first, the media tried to tell us the emails were fake. And then CNN even went full 1984 and said it was illegal for the public to look at the archives, and we were only allowed to listen to them about what they say about them.
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us. And in full disclosure, let's take a look at what is in there.
No one bought it. So the narrative switched gears to Russia, and it's exploded into the full-on Putin hysteria by the mainstream media today. To date, there has not been produced one single piece of actual evidence that Russia was involved in changing the results of the US election. What they have instead is a firm over-reliance on coincidence and innuendo. Leading the charge in these conspiracy theories is Looney Louise Mensch. In her alternative reality, Putin hacked the election not by changing ballots in Pennsylvania, Florida, Ohio, or Michigan, but by exposing the massive corruption and scandals of the Democrat Party, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. The New York Times even published a piece by her that lays out her extremely convoluted theory. Of course, the New York Times conveniently left out the part where she accuses the president of Russia of murdering Andrew Breitbart. Louise even goes so far as to claim that the 15-year-old girl Anthony Weiner was sexting with was in fact a Russian spy. Now, this isn't limited to the left either. Last week, Dick Cheney declared Putin's interference in the US election was an act of war.
There was a very serious effort made by Mr. Putin and his government and his organization to interfere in major ways with our basic fundamental democratic processes. In some quarters, that would be considered an act of war.
Spoiler alert, if you're trying to push a narrative and you don't have any evidence, probably the last person you want to roll out is the guy who started the war in Iraq over weapons of mass destruction that weren't there. So what about the emails in question? Did Russia actually hack the DNC? Well, that claim falls apart under even the smallest scrutiny. The cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike that made the claims linking the DNC hack to Russia is now under fire as in having misread the key data used in the claim. The founder of CrowdStrike is Dmitry Alperovitch, a Russian himself and a member of the George Soros-founded Atlantic Council. CrowdStrike claimed that Russia used the same program to hack the DNC as was used to hack the Ukrainian military in 2014. But the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense denies the hacks, and US cyber warfare experts refer to the claim as flimsy evidence. So let's wrap this all together. The entire claim that Russia hacked the elections boils down to hacked emails and then releasing them via WikiLeaks from the DNC and the Hillary campaign, John Podesta, the chairman, exposing numerous scandals that were damaging to Hillary's chances in 2016 and ultimately gave the election to Donald Trump. Does that make sense to anyone? Not even Tom Clancy would write a plot that convoluted and bizarre, but that's what the mainstream media and the left would have you believe. I almost strained a cerebral lobe doing the mental gymnastics on this one. To think that the leader of the world's second largest nuclear arsenal would spend his time cooking up a plotline with more holes in it than the last half dozen James Bond movies is preposterous. After all, isn't this the same Russia that gave $35 million to Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, the same John Podesta, from a state-owned company? Isn't this the same Russia that donated millions to the Clinton Foundation in exchange for control of a major stake in the U.S. uranium supply while Hillary Clinton was the U.S. Secretary of State? You know, the New York Times used to report this stuff back in 2015, but suddenly after the narrative shifted, now it's Trump who's the one in bed with the Russians. Funny how that works. So let's use a little Occam's razor on this one. If something sounds too convoluted and preposterous to be true, it probably isn't. Russia did not hack the US election any more than Zimbabwe did. What did happen was that millions of Americans became fed up with the status quo and pay-for-play deals like Uranium One going on in Washington that they rose up to vote for Donald Trump in a movement election, and they turned out in droves. Imagine the payroll the Kremlin must have to be able to pack stadiums from Michigan to Florida chock full of Russian agents. Jack Posobiec, DC Bureau Chief, reporting for Rebel Media. If you want to see more political journalism and analysis like this, make sure to hit like and subscribe to The Rebel.